Hello, my name is Antonio T. May Taylor, and I'm a former member of the Civilian Review and Accountability Board. And I'm here to share my experiences on the board with you all. I hope you all enjoy this interview.
To those in our community who demanded change, thank you for speaking up.
To our community, thank you for your partnership as we move forward.
Where we're going to be talking about the consent decree that was recently signed between Louisville Metro Government, the Louisville Metro Police Department, and the U.S. Department of Justice.
At the end of the day, the people of Louisville deserve constitutional and effective policing and nothing less.
Hey y'all, welcome to State Live Stream's podcast series about the consent decree. I'm former State Representative Attica Scott. It is my honor to be here today with the Antonio T. May Taylor.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank
Oh
you,
my
Queen.
gosh.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. We appreciate you being here. We're going to talk about the 2020 protests. We're going to talk about the work that he's been doing with young people, his work on the Civilian Review and Accountability Board. We're going to talk some about the consent decree and where we are with that, and then anything else that the Antonio T. May Taylor
Wow.
wants to talk about. So,
And
we get right into
you.
it, of
Thank
course.
you for all the work you do in the
Oh, thank
community. I
you.
want to
Thank
lift
you.
you up, sister.
Oh,
I
appreciate
love
that.
you. You know, you've helped me and my babies on policy.
Yes, of
So we
course.
family. So just thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm so happy to do this interview. Thank you.
Absolutely. And happy Valentine's
Happy
Day,
Valentine's
everybody.
Day.
Yes. So let's just get right into it. So let's go back to 2020, right?
Wow.
It's almost 5 years ago,
Wow.
right?
Can
Almost
you
5 years
believe it?
ago. No,
Wow.
it seems like it was yesterday.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
just share with us a little bit about what brought you out into the streets in 2020.
So the backstory is, and I'll try to make this short. I went to the first Million Man March back in 1994.
My gosh.
I was just out of high school.
Wow.
So I actually thought that the revolution was going to happen then. After listening to the great Minister Louis Farrakhan, I was inspired. I was like, the revolution is about to happen. Black people are going to rise up. We're finally going to speak truth to power. We're going to engage in policy. We're going to transform our communities. And honestly, nothing happened. Nothing happened. However, I do have faith. I really believe in the Bible. And I just remember, scriptures about, God's chosen being in the wilderness for 40 years. So that's what I extended it to.
Okay.
We're in the wilderness for 40 years until we wake up. And Breonna Taylor made us wake up. And when I saw that first protest on that Thursday, that's why I consider myself a day one.
Yes.
I was there because I had been ready since '94 in Washington, D.C., right? At the Million Man March, I was ready. So God was just pouring into me all those years and just letting me know that there would come a time and place. So that's why I was just ready. And that's why where my passion came from.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I appreciate the history reminder because my ex-husband was at the Million Man March in DC, right? And so
Absolutely,
just
yes.
thinking about how far we've come since then, and
Absolutely.
while like the big whatever it was we were hoping would come from that didn't necessarily happen, maybe it wasn't designed to. Maybe it was designed for you to go back right
Absolutely,
home and
yeah.
say, okay, what is it that I'm going to do in my own backyard?
Yeah.
So
And I
man,
do believe this too. I do believe timing plays a part because it was the perfect storm because we were going through COVID at the
That's
time,
right.
right? We were going through many things that it was not that dynamic back in '94. We didn't have that dynamic. In '94, we were a little comfortable. You know, we had black people was rising up. We had Michael Jordan. We had Oprah Winfrey. We had inspiration that black people were aspiring and being great.
That's right.
In 2020, what were we seeing in 2020?
Right.
We were seeing unarmed black men and women being killed at an alarming rate.
That's
Right? We
right.
were seeing that. So it was at the right time. It was at the right time at the right moment. So and I really truly believe it happened at the right time.
That's
So,
right.
Yeah.
That's right. Now we're going to come back to your work with young people throughout
Okay.
this interview.
Absolutely.
So can you talk some about like what was it like to be working with young people during the movement in 2020? What was that experience like for you?
Just that's where I found my purpose.
Okay.
During 2020 is when I found my purpose, and that my purpose was to work with young people, but to be intentional about raising up the next leader. That's truly what my job is. My job is to raise up the next representative Attica Scott. My job is to raise up the next John Lewis.
Yes.
My job is to raise up the next Malcolm X. My job is to raise up the next CEO Ben Johnson.
Yes.
That really is my purpose. So I found my purpose with working with young people during that moment.
Okay.
And God revealed it to me. So, but during that experience of the Breonna Taylor protest, what was revealing to me is just how our kids reacted to the death of Breonna Taylor. They reacted to it like that was one of their family members, like it was their cousin, their auntie, and they were very passionate about it. So But what I saw them that troubled me, no one was giving young people the platform to talk about how they felt.
Wow.
Not when it came to Breonna Taylor,
Yes.
not when it came to the pandemic. There were no platforms where kids could really express themselves,
Mm.
and they were going through some mental health issues,
Mhm.
that needed to be addressed that weren't. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that myself and my wife,
Yes. Yes.
were able to provide a platform for young people to be able to express how they feel.
Yep. And thank you
Yes,
for that, because y'all, when I tell you, seeing them come up to Frankfurt when I was serving up there with groups
absolutely.
of young people every time,
Yes,
it's always advocating for so many issues, whether it was Brianna's Law or the Crown Act or education justice, whatever it is, it just meant so much. I remember y'all
thank
coming up
you.
with K-State, marching
Yes,
from K-State
yes,
to the state capitol,
yes.
right? So that was so
Yeah, the
important.
Crown Act rallies,
Yes.
which is really important because
Yes.
students get engaged and they understand the process.
Yes.
After they do those rallies, they understand the process. They understand that it's work to be done. It's a moment, right?
Right.
But you need to turn that moment into a movement.
That's it.
And what is the difference between a moment and a movement? It's sacrifice.
Yes.
That's what it is. So our kids learn we have to sacrifice,
That's right.
and just seeing that sacrifice and that journey they're on, it's brilliant. Yeah.
Uh-oh. Hold up, y'all. Oh, y'all.
Oh,
Oh, this is
the
beautiful.
graduates. Yes.
Graduation. Woo!
Yes.
Hey, yes. Woo!
Congrats.
The lights of Kentucky Performing Arts shine on more than our shows. They illuminate a pathway of discovery for all throughout our Commonwealth. A pathway of creativity, confidence, possibility, of brilliance, inspiration, curiosity, and wonder. For 40 years, Kentucky Performing Arts led a path to unite the Commonwealth around the joy of discovering the arts, and will continue to shine this light far into the future.
Hey guys, before we get back to the live stream, I'm Tracy, the bartender at Southern Hospitality Bar and Grill, located at 3402 West Broadway. You guys got to come and check us out. You can call your order in, and the phone number is 502-822-1474. Again, I'm Tracy, the bartender at Southern Hospitality. Come check us out, guys.
Welcome back, y'all. Thank you so much for that intermission. Listen, this is what it means to be in community. Goodwill has opened up their space to us. Thank you so much to Mr. Emery Scott Lee for being so generous to us. And listen, when it's time to honor our folks who are graduating, we stop everything. We do that. We got to drop it, right?
Yes.
So, congratulations to them. And thank you so much, Team A, for your patience and understanding with all that.
That's like you said. That's community.
Yes.
That's the example of community.
Exactly. I mean, why would we be here if we weren't supporting people who are trying to get their education right in whatever form of fashion that shows up in?
It's important.
Right?
Yeah.
So I want to bring us to your service on the Civilian Review and Accountability Board.
Yes.
So I know a lot of folks watching remember some of us had to do some real advocating to even get you on that board.
Yes.
So let's just start with the origin story. How did you even get there?
So the origin story of the board is that one day I was at work driving the bus for JCPS, right? Happy to be a former JCPS bus driver, by the way. And I get a call from Mayor Fisher, and he's saying, Antonio, this is the time where I'm asking you to serve your community. And the first question I had for Mayor Fisher was, why me? And he said, well, because people trust you.
Yes.
They trust you. They know you love your community. And I truly believe you're a good man. And so I said, I always like to take 24 hours before I answer any questions. So let me take 24 hours to reflect. So I took those 24 hours and I was, in my mind, I was, because I've never served on a board, and I've been critical of boards before because, from my experience, a lot of boards are formed just to check a box, but nothing is done. Like there's no actual work, there's no actual real change. So I'm very critical when they're forming these boards, very critical, and I'm being asked to be on one, right? So, but after doing some deep dive thinking, talking to my wife about it, uh, thinking about how I could serve, I really felt like, yeah, this is something that I need to do.
Yes.
So I joined the board, not knowing the firestorm that it was going to
Mm,
create on my reputation and who
mm,
I was.
mm-hmm.
So it was one of the most trying times in my life,
Okay.
absolutely.
Wow.
My character had never been destroyed like that. I've never been
Mm,
painted in that way, you
mm-hmm.
know. But it also was a time for me to reflect on some decisions that I had made, right? Being in the moment, being angry.
Mm-hmm.
So it also helped me grow.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't take it back for anything.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
absolutely.
And shout out to everybody who made sure you did your part
Thank
in,
you.
in getting
Thank
what
you
you made
all.
on that
Yes,
board.
thank
And
you.
and a happy Valentine's Day to your wife, the Nyree Clayton.
Yes.
We
Yes.
love you, Queen. Thank
Yeah,
you
happy
so
Valentine's
much.
Day.
Yes. So I know that you experienced some of what I experienced serving in office. So people think, oh, you get into this position and you changed, right?
Yeah.
Either we don't hear from you as much as we used to, or you're not speaking out the way that you used to, and you've turned your back on us, or all the things that people will say, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't know and they're not in the position.
Yeah.
So can you share some about what that was like for you? Because I know for me it was heartbreaking when I have experienced those
Yeah.
moments, right? So what
Absolutely.
was it like for you?
What it was like for me, again, it was heartbreaking. And getting back to what the controversy for me being on the board, well, it was comments I made during the protest. I said LMPD is the devil,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a direct reply to what had happened on Derby Day 2020 when about 15 community leaders that we call Breeway were left in the square, right? And we had the Angry Vikings, over 1,000 Angry Vikings marching into Breeway. And we felt like on that day we could have died 6 or 7 times, and there was no help from LMPD. So I was angry about that. So
Yes.
I put that on social media, right? And so that's why the backlash came. He cannot be biased. He
Right.
cannot be, he's not going to be one that's going to have an open ear and listen and be a critical thinker. So it's hurtful to hear people say those things about you when I've always been one to reach across the aisle, to communicate with people. I'm a people person. I
Yeah.
love all people. I
Yeah.
love people. So to be painted in that light,
Mhm.
it was hurtful. So, but I'm kind of like Tupac too, right? Me and my big mouth. Me
Right.
and my big mouth. Right? So as I when I got voted on the board, right, I did it again, right?
Mm.
LMPD, they really handled a friend of mine, a protest buddy of mine, in the wrong manner. They used excessive use of force, and I went to Facebook again.
Yes.
Me and my big mouth, right?
Uh-huh.
Me and my my Twitter thumbs, as they
Yes.
call it. And it could have been, and I was already being targeted, right,
Mhm.
by certain Metro council
Mhm.
members who didn't want me on the board anyway, right?
Right.
And so I got some phone calls from a couple of people that said, Antonio, you are too important.
Mhm.
You know, there has to be a time to where you are silent and you learn. I'll say, I hope this person doesn't mind, but it was a phone call from Lenita Baker that really made me say, you know what, this is a moment to where I really need to be held accountable
Mhm.
for the board that I'm on,
Mhm.
and I need to understand that the community is really dependent on me,
That's right.
and I cannot make it about me
Mhm.
and my feelings or my emotions.
Yes.
And so at that time, I was like, you know what? For these next 4 years, I made a decision, and I also called David James, Councilman
Mhm.
David James, because
Mhm.
he was the president
Yes.
of Metro Council at the time. And I asked him, I said, how do I navigate while I'm on the board talking about the police? How do I
Mhm.
navigate that? And he gave me a clear answer. While you're on that board, don't say anything about police.
Mhm.
Don't say anything.
Mhm.
Call me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Right.
Lenita said the same thing.
Yes.
Call me.
Yes.
And I just think that was wonderful advice to
Mhm.
give me.
Mhm.
And so I took that advice, and for 4 years, again, my goal was to just sit on the board, learn all I can, be quiet, shut up, listen, and learn.
Mhm.
That was my goal for being on the board,
Right.
and that was the best way that I could serve the community. So it was not that people put a muzzle on me or they
Right.
put me on the board to be silent. I was on the board to learn.
Right.
There's a moment that you must be silent.
Yes.
When Malcolm X was going through his sabbatical, he went over to the Middle East, right? And he was quiet while he was over there, and he learned, and he prayed, and he learned how true Muslims, right? He learned how they approached religion. So I just felt like, that was something that I should have done, and I approached it in that manner. And I'm really glad that I did,
Yes.
because it was one of the best experiences of my life serving on that
Wow.
board.
That's
Yeah,
amazing. And thank you for the reminder that
yeah,
y'all we don't always have to say everything that we're thinking and doing.
right.
I remember a few weeks ago, Bianca Austin had
Yes.
a panel discussion about the
Mhm.
consent decree, and someone asked a question around, so what's our strategy, what's our plan?
Mhm.
And my immediate response was, because usually I don't respond to a question first. I'm like, let everybody else should respond.
Yeah.
Share space. But I had to respond and say, we probably shouldn't share that in this public
Yeah.
uh, convening that's being live
Don't give
streamed,
them the
right?
playbook.
You can't give the playbook out.
Right.
If people ask you what's your plan, you say, watch and see.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to.
Absolutely.
You're under no obligation to share it.
Mm-hmm.
So you're also under no obligation to always be running
Yeah.
your mouth.
Hmm. And then
Right.
another thing that I want to say about being on the board, to be honest, we do sign a contract.
Okay.
When you're on the board, you have to sign a contract, and the only person who is allowed to speak publicly about what's going on with the board is the chair.
Okay.
And I was not the chair.
Right.
So really, according to the contract I signed and it signed in the terms of the agreement, really I couldn't talk about anything that was going on.
That's right.
With the board
That's right.
or how I was serving on the board.
That's
So
right.
again, right, understanding your purpose and understanding why you're serving and adhering to those things that you agreed upon.
That's right.
So yeah.
Now, am I correct that this was the inaugural?
This was the inaugural board. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
So
I was the only black man too. The only black man on the board.
Only
The
black
only
man
one.
on the
Yeah.
Civilian Review and
Yeah.
Accountability Board, which means that we all put all of our weight and everything on him. We
Absolutely.
thinking that Antonio T. May Taylor's gonna save the day because he's
Right.
serving on the board,
Yes.
right? So, which is unrealistic.
Mhm.
We should show our support absolutely and ask how do we expand representation on the
Yes.
board. So you served on the board. Can you share a little bit for folks who are not aware of what the role or the job of the Civilian Review and Accountability Board is? Can you share a little bit about what you did? What was that
Yeah.
like?
Okay. So the primary role of the Civilian Review and Accountability Board is for police oversight. That's what it's for. So what we do when people have complaints about use of force, complaints of how they were treated by LMPD, those complaints go to the IG's office, which is Ed Harness. So we look at those cases. He has a wonderful staff and a wonderful team that reviews those cases, and we make recommendations. Now, keep in mind, we make recommendations.
Right.
We cannot enact any type of changes to policy, procedure, or any of that. The only thing we can do is make recommendations.
Yes.
But in that, there's still power that we have as a community and people by doing that, because what we gain, right? We gain an understanding of how police policies and procedures work.
Yes.
So one of the things that I found out that I didn't know before serving on the board, right? There are many, many steps that police officers are supposed to take when they're in a hostile environment, right?
Okay.
Before they get to the gun.
Mm.
There are many steps before they get to the gun that they're supposed to take. So they have every tool that's readily available to them to be able to de-escalate it before getting to the gun. And I didn't know that before,
Okay.
But in knowing that, right, what I found out was also on the other side, policing is one of the hardest jobs that you can do in America. It really is. When you have um, someone's life in your hands where you can save a life, you can take a life, you can step on a life, right? You can affect a life. It's a lot of weight to that job. It's a lot of responsibility. There are some who don't know how to operate in that power and they abuse the power. However, I truly believe, as a member of the Civilian Review and Accountability Board, I believe I've encountered more good police than bad. I've interacted with more good police than bad. The problem is this: the good police officers that do serve their community, that do love people, that do their jobs to a T, and just want to make it home to their families, right? Because of the culture, right, of policing within the blue code, they do not hold the few bad ones, and it is few, they do not hold the few bad ones accountable. And that's what makes the whole system not work.
Right.
It's that one thing. Accountability.
Yeah.
It's just one word.
But that's one
Yeah.
of the reasons why we have the Civilian Review and Accountability
Absolutely.
Board, why we have the Office of Inspector General.
Yes.
So let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
So we know we have this consent decree out, 200
Yeah.
plus page consent decree. We had the opportunity to have a conversation with Mr. Ed Harness, our Inspector General here in Louisville. That's back in December.
Yes.
Much love to Stella Dorsey.
Yeah,
Love you,
Stella,
Queen.
love Stella.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my girl,
Yes,
Stella.
he does have an
Yeah.
amazing staff.
Amazing.
So one of the concerns that I raised to Mr. Harness when we did the interview is, how can we guarantee that the Office of Inspector General, or not how can we guarantee, but did he see any conflicts with the Office of Inspector General and the independent monitor that was mentioned in the consent decree,
Mhm.
because it just seems like to me we have a mayor and a police chief that don't necessarily support
Mhm.
our inspector general. So can you
Yes.
talk some about what is it that we need to do now in this moment? Because we're building toward another movement, but in this moment, what can we do to support the Office of Inspector General and Mr. Ed Harness, who I believe has been holding LMPD accountable?
Absolutely. So let me start here first,
Okay.
okay? Let me start with saying that serving under Inspector General Ed Harness was one of the most uh, eye-opening experiences I've had in my life. He taught me a lot. He poured into me. He made me understand the role of being on the board. He was also always attentive to the board and his employees and the needs of the community, right? He really wanted the community to have a voice, right? And I just think that's to be commended. And the main thing, he held LMPD accountable for what
Yes.
they did.
Yes.
I mean, we had to sign so many memorandums of understanding just for them to do their part, right? You know, and he pushed for those things. So I know he is very effective in his job title and he takes it serious.
Yes.
There were many conferences that I went to while I served on the board. And what I would find out about our Inspector General Ed Harness, he's a superstar. The work he did in Albuquerque, results. He got results, right?
Okay.
And he got the community involved, right? He formed community engagement forums where police officers would come and talk to community members. And he was trying to duplicate that here in Louisville, but there was no cooperation from Louisville, not from the LMPD. I'm sorry, there was no cooperation. So, but that's how serious he is about the work, and that's how much I really love serving him. He's the man for the job.
Yes.
So as I say this, this is what we need to keep our eyes on.
Okay.
His term ends in November, right? So he has said to me, right, that he does not know if he will be reappointed to his position as the Inspector General in Louisville, Kentucky. And I'm saying to the public, we do not want to lose Ed Harness, IG Ed Harness. So I'm imploring you all, make some phone calls, text messages, get on Facebook, get on Instagram, you know, whatever social media outlet you use. And please tell this current administration, the mayor's office, that we want to keep Inspector General Ed Harness as our Inspector General in Louisville. He is the man for the job. He's not just, sometimes when we form these boards, people are just checking boxes.
That's right.
He's not there just to check a box. He's there to do the job.
Yes.
He is there to serve the community. I know that from working under him. So I really want us to really be. We can't wait till November. We can't wait to. And look, y'all, the budget comes out in June, right? The Metro Council budget comes out in June, or they vote on it, right?
Yes,
They vote on it in June. We have to start now because we want his money to be in the budget for the Inspector General office because they don't have to have an Inspector General office.
Right.
The mayor's office can get rid of that.
Right.
You know, Mayor Fisher is the one that implemented that in, but Greenberg does not have to continue having a office, right, for the Inspector General.
That's right.
So we have to use our voices. We have to let our elected officials know, right, the things that the community needs from our elected officials.
That's
so
right.
I'm imploring. That's one thing I'm very passionate about. Let's get Ed Harness back appointed as our IG here in Louisville. I'm very passionate about that.
Awesome. And thank you for that call to action. So,
Yeah.
folks, just to reiterate what Antonio had said, November of 2025 is when Mr. Ed Harness's contract is up. If his position is not in the Louisville Metro budget that gets passed in June, then it's highly unlikely that he will still be employed with Louisville Metro government. So that's why you need to be making your phone calls now, because from March,
Email.
calls, emails, everything, because from March through May is when Mayor Greenberg and Louisville Metro Council will be working on the budget. So thank you so much for that call to action, because I know the people
Call to
who are
action,
watching, they
you all.
love a good
Call to action. Yeah,
Yes.
call to action,
Yes.
you all. Yeah, that's our part. We played. That's our role. We played, and it works. We have a voice. You know, I think people don't really understand how much sway we have when it comes to using our voices for change.
That's right.
Public opinion goes a long way, right? Politicians pay attention
Yes.
to how people feel.
Absolutely.
They
Yes.
do.
Yes.
Believe it or not, it's how they get elected. It's how they get
Exactly.
voted in.
Yes.
You got to have some type of popularity, right?
Yes.
You have to have it. So And I just don't believe, I don't think people understand the power they have in voice and what we really want. And I just really want people to understand the power you have.
That's right.
So we got to
Absolutely.
use it, y'all.
Yes.
Because if you don't use your power, you don't have none.
Exactly.
Point blank. Yeah.
So if you don't know how to get in touch with Mayor Greenberg or your member on Louisville Metro Council, please go to and bookmark, which means save or star, LouisvilleKY.gov. Again, it's LouisvilleKY.gov. So I said we talk about young people throughout this interview. So I want to get back to young people before we dig a little bit more into the consent decree. So we're now here in 2025. A lot is happening, including the consent decree, including continuing to work to try to hold police accountable, including everything that needs to happen at the local and state levels as it relates to policy and keeping people safe and protected, including our young people. So what are you doing now with young folks? I mean, when I tell you the real young prodigies are my heart and soul, listen
know.
to my heart.
Yeah.
I followed them to Lexington when they were doing something with the
Frankfurt.
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 I'm gonna go where they go.
We've been all over the state with Attica.
With me, but they've been all over the world and continue to go. So please share with us what's happening right now as it relates to your work with young people, because in this moment we need everybody, all hands on deck.
As it relates to the work that I do and me and my wife do with young people, we are continuing to fight. We are continuing to give voice to students, right? Student voice is the platform. That's what we're passionate about. I'll be honest and transparent with you, right? October, November, December of last year was probably a low point for hip hop into learning because of the bus song that we did. We got attacked by so many people, JCPS. I mean, just so many organizations. I'm not gonna name them, right? But we were being told that we could not perform that song. People would book us for performance and say, you can come and perform, right? But don't do that song.
Oh my goodness.
So we had to kind of reassess, what is our true mission? Are we going to stand true to what our mission is? And should we be silent? People say this, not say that.
Not only has our music video been viewed by more than 71,000 people, but has been commented on and agreed upon by many families. This is a nationwide issue, but together as a county, we can create
feeling because this is what I do know. Every day I'm saving a young life. Every day. And I'm a foster child. So I know that I'm giving back. I owe a debt to society because I'm a statistic. And I made it. So I'm paying back my debt, but it's just so rewarding to work with these young kids. So right now our fight continues to pass the Crown Act. On a state level, right? Now I know that Bashir he did an executive order, but that was just to protect employees that work for the state level, right? But we need the ordinance passed, right? So it'll protect the people, right? Protection for people. So we're continuing to push that. Also, there's a transportation bill that we're gonna, and I don't want to say what the bill is yet because I don't want, how it is. You gotta kind of keep it. Strategy is important.
That's right.
But there's a transportation bill that we're trying to push so that we can offer more resources to these kids who do not have transportation to schools. Because as you know, there is a bus driver shortage.
Right.
So you can add as many routes as you want, but if you ain't got nobody to drive the bus,
that's right. That's right.
So we need alternatives.
Yes.
We need some ride share alternatives that we can engage in so we can make sure that our kids have access to education.
That's right.
So that's what we're doing with our young people. And I'll tell you this one last thing about our young people. They are going to respond to what's going on right now in our country. This anti-DEI stuff that's going on, our kids are going to respond.
That's right.
This silencing the voices for young people, especially black and brown people, they are going to respond to it.
Yes.
So be on the lookout. We are going to start dropping these videos, this content. So just know the real young prodigies, they coming for it. They coming. Be ready, y'all. Be ready. And support these babies. Don't leave them hanging.
That's right.
Don't leave them, because a lot of times we let up people stay in the front, get attacked, and then we fall back.
Yes.
And we don't support.
That's right.
Don't leave these babies hanging, y'all.
That's right.
Do not.
And I want people to remember, to your point about bus drivers and the bus driver shortage, we know we had 2 days this past week where JCPS was closed due to sickness. A lot of that was because the drivers were ill. Wow. We don't have enough drivers to get to our kids. So we're going to take a break. Yeah. And when we come back, we're going to dig some more into the consent decree and the work that you're doing. Thank y'all so much for tuning in.
Thank you, Ab.
Hey, I know you're watching the live stream right now, but I want to take a moment to tell you to check out this new book right here over my shoulder. Believe me, it'll be worth it.
All right, welcome back, y'all. So we were talking about our young folks. Please do support the Real Young
And
Prodigy.
I'm looking at one of my babies right here, Kaori. Yeah.
Oh
One
my
of my
God.
babies.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
y'all.
I know, right?
Look at those glasses. Oh my goodness, I
Yeah.
love them.
Yeah. Come here.
Okay.
Yeah.
How you doing?
One of the original
Yes,
prodigies right here.
absolutely.
Yes. We doing
Wonderful. How about
wonderful.
you? Okay, all right.
Go get them babies.
Yes,
I
yes.
love you. Love you. Yeah.
Then you can't put
Yes.
like people like us together because then we don't know how to act. We know it's an
Right.
interview and
Yeah.
everything.
And we know everybody. And we
Yes,
are, we have poured into these babies. We
yes,
have.
yes,
We are
absolutely.
people in this community who have poured into these babies since they was
Yes,
this high.
yes,
And Kaori is an
yes,
example of that. Yeah.
absolutely.
So
So
yeah, I just love this work.
that was
Yeah.
beautiful.
It was.
So let's get back into this,
Okay.
200 plus page
Woo.
consent decree. Um, So one thing that we know, we had an update recently. We know that the Department of Justice has filed a motion to extend the request for additional information from Judge Beaton. He had wanted that additional information to be sent to him by February 18th, which is next week. Well, the DOJ has asked for an extension to March 20th. The city, Louisville Metro Government, Louisville Metro Police Department have not opposed that request. So to me that just sounds like the government trying to push off and extend a decision on the consent decree. So I want to give people that update. And we've already dug into the consent decree. But what I want to ask you, Antonio, is let's say the consent decree is not signed by federal Judge Beaton. Where do we go from here as a community? What do you say to young people who you work with if they get the news come March that there will not be a consent decree for Louisville?
This is our reality, to be honest. We have an administration on the federal level and we must be clear with our young people about this and our community. They have no intention on upholding accountability for not just LMPD, but no police officer across the country. They ran on a platform of we want immunity for all police officers, no matter what the crime.
Right.
We must believe what this administration is saying because they're showing us. So let's lead with that. Let's not have these expectations that, oh, we are dealing with an administration that really wants these consent decrees. They're serious about real police reform. They really want community engagement between policing and the community. Oh, no, we're not dealing with that type of administration. So we have to be real about possibly we might be waiting another 4 years, right? Before we can start some real work when it comes to police reform in this city.
Right.
And that is because why? Voting.
Mm.
That's why voting is so important.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have a lot of faith in the consent decree, to be
Okay.
honest, because I'm not I don't want to I always want to provide hope.
Right.
But what I don't want to do, I don't want to be misleading.
Yes.
And I want to be honest and fair about how we need to strategize and move forward because it's all about strategy. And so if we need to be strategizing for the next 4 years and we got a great strategy that we can start putting in place, including voting,
Yes.
so we have on the federal level administration that is serious about stuff like this,
Yes.
right? Let's start doing that work now. Let's concentrate on that now.
Yeah.
Because we understand that, again, even if it's signed off on, right, on the federal level, is it going to be supported? Is it going to be executed? We got to deal with that reality.
That's right.
Because how it's held accountable, and you tell me if I'm wrong, is on the federal level. That's how we get real reform.
That's right.
All the Breonna Taylor, when all that came out, right, of what LMPD had done, right, how they violated codes and policies and procedures, right, that was a federal report, right?
Yes.
This administration would not have even looked at the Breonna Taylor case to even have a consent decree.
You're right.
So we have to be real about that. We have to be mindful of that. And I just believe as a community, as Black people, we have to spend time on things that are really going to push us forward, right? We ain't got time to waste. We
That's
just
right.
don't. So my answer to that is that we just understand, right? Understand where we are and who we dealing with. That's my advice to people, and that's
That's
how I
it.
feel about it. I want the consent decree. I do, Attica. It's the right thing for our city. We do know that there were findings by the DOJ that causes us to need to have a
Right.
consent decree. I'm all for it. I want it. However, how is it going to be enforced is my question.
That's right. And you made a good point that
Yeah.
we can't be naive. We know that at the state level, we can't depend on our state legislature
Mm-mm.
because we couldn't get a full
Mm-mm.
ban on no-knock warrants, which is what
Mm-mm.
we wanted. And then we find out just a few months ago that under some of the circumstances we were trying to fight for, a man was killed by police in
Mm-hmm.
rural Kentucky,
Yeah.
and they went to the wrong house and killed the wrong man.
Right. So
For,
these things continue to happen. Right.
and they were looking for somebody who had stolen a piece of lawn equipment
Mm-hmm.
from a county judge
Yeah.
executive.
Exactly.
So you went in full force for a piece of lawn equipment. But anyway, and we also know that we have a state legislature that has filed a bill that would prohibit protests at the state capitol.
Mm-hmm.
So all of this is happening to us around the same time at the national level and at the state level.
Yeah.
So we got to be wise.
We gotta vote. We gotta
Yes.
vote. We gotta vote. We
Yes.
gotta vote.
Yes.
We have to vote.
Yes.
One of the things that hurts me, Attica, and I don't know the exact percentage of number, all right? Because I'm not gonna put out a number. But what I do know is that when Black people came out of when we came into Reconstruction, right? Black people were voting at an alarming rate. That's why you had a record number of Black senators being elected, Black congressmen being elected, Black officials being elected. We were resurrecting our own towns, right? That was because the vote, we understood how precious and we understood policy and how it could work.
Yes.
If you look at the rate of how Black people vote now, it's not the same.
That's right.
That's why we get the result we get.
That's right.
Because we don't understand the power of the vote and we don't understand how policy works.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is a vote.
That's right.
The cup I'm holding in my hand is a vote.
Yes.
The water we drink is a vote.
Yes.
People are deciding on that.
Yes.
People you elect are voting on that stuff.
Right.
And we just somewhere along the line, Attica, we just don't believe. You got all these conspiracy theories. Well, the government, the 1%, they're gonna do what they're gonna do anyway. There is the lesser of two evils. Well, there is a lesser of two evils. Who would you rather fight? Somebody with a knife or somebody with a gun?
Right.
That's how I look at our political parties. One has a knife, one has a gun. None of them are really for us or built for us, right?
That's
But
right.
I'd rather fight with the one with the gun than not. With the knife. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'd rather fight with the one with the knife than the gun.
That's right.
And we got to realize that. It's all politics and we must engage.
That's right.
We don't have time to just sit on the side and not engage. What kind of future are we building for our kids that we love?
Absolutely.
We're gonna leave them carrying the bag, and guess they're gonna be resentful towards us as they are now.
Yes.
As they are
So,
now.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day, y'all.
Well, in particular to the 92%. Y'all know who y'all are.
Right. Yeah. The 92%. Okay.
The 92% of Black women voted.
Absolutely.
How
yeah.
we supposed to vote in November.
You did.
So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to be honest, right on election day, that was the day that Black men and women were the most united.
Yes.
Because we were the only race of people that overwhelmingly came together and voted for the right thing.
That's right.
Yep. You can't say that for no other race.
You cannot.
Because they did not.
Exactly.
But Black people, mainly Black women, right?
Yes.
We rose up and we made the right decision.
That's right.
We did. So,
absolutely.
So hand clap for that, y'all. Hand clap. We should be proud of ourselves for that.
That's right.
And that's progress to me. It
Yes.
is. It is. But it's so much more work that we have to do.
That's right. That's
and
right.
so and that's another thing that I learned from being on the Civilian Review and Accountability Board, right? I understand like there is a process, there's a procedure, right? And how important it is that we get the correct council members, right? Metro council members on, voting. It is. And we're losing grip right now.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
Look at the way,
And people need to remember 2026 will be the first year that the mayoral elections and the Metro Council races in Louisville will be nonpartisan.
Right.
So that's for a reason.
That's for a reason.
Intentional.
Yeah, it's intentional.
So,
yeah.
Before we go, I want to come back to the Civilian Review and Accountability Board. So you said you served on there for 4 years.
Yes.
Why are you no longer on the Civilian Review and Accountability Board?
Okay, my term was up.
Okay.
My term was up. Now, I'll be honest and transparent, okay? Because I love you, right?
Yes.
I was asked by IG Ed Harness to stay on the board.
Okay.
I was asked. Looking back, I regret not staying on the board. I do, especially with what's going on now with the consent decree, and also with Ed possibly not being, reappointed. Um, and I hope I'm using the right word.
Yes.
And I still feel like there was work for me to do within the board too, right? Because the board has its own culture too, right? So
Yes.
I still feel like culturally there was more work for me to do. So I kind of regret it, but what I was getting at the time, right? What I was getting at the time when he was asking me to call the mayor's office and ask for my term to be extended, what I was hearing from other board members, right, was that the current administration, right, they kind of wanted to appoint their own people. And I also felt this way. I was like, am I taking away opportunity from another black man that needs to serve and learn this information? Because two it's more powerful than one. I can only do so much by myself.
That's right.
But if there's another black man that can come and learn this information, is it going to be more of an impact? So I didn't want to be greedy. I didn't want to be selfish. And I'm always thinking about my community first, and I'm always thinking, put your ego to the side. Put it to the side.
Yes.
So that's why I did not, push to be reassigned to the board.
Okay.
So my term ended in April, and I really do miss it though. I do miss the work. I miss it. I really do.
Yes.
So, but I'm in support of the board and what they're doing. It's a wonderful board to serve on. It's wonderful people. I love the people that work in Inspector General Ed Harness, his office. They are wonderful people. But most of all, I love Ed Harness and the work that he does in the IG's office, and I hope that he's able to continue that work.
That's right.
I really do.
Thank you for that. So before we go, I want to ask you, do you have anything that you want to share with the folks who are tuning in live, watching, or going to watch the recording?
Use your voice. It's the most powerful thing that you can use. I will say this. If you have no voice, you have no power. If you have no power, you cannot change, right? And you must have influence as well. So I just use your voice. Use some action, strategize, and the power is in the people. And I'll end on that. Power is in the people, Attica.
Yes. Thank you so much for tuning in today to Stay Live Streams. Thank you again to Mr. Antonio T. May Taylor for joining us in this important conversation. Again, happy Valentine's Day. Happy Black History Month. Please stay safe. Please stay healthy. Whatever you do, stay live.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
We will not make excuses. We will make changes.
It is our duty. It is our duty to we must love and support.
Does the mayor still plan to spend this money in the same way following this announcement? And if so, why does he think he has the authority?
We have nothing to lose.
I've been here every day.
We have nothing to lose but our chains. But our chains.